Who am I? I'm a Nintendo Direct. You're probably wondering why I'm not in my traditional set, but this Direct, well, first of all, I had a coffee protein drink this morning. I don't ever do caffeine, but this Direct, it got me worked up. It was so up and down. I felt like I was being taken for a ride. Like it was Crazy Taxi, but we were the passengers. We were not in control. And so I just got to digest this in a way that I know how, which is moving around, because I feel like this Direct put me in different places, and I feel like the reactions are going to be all over. There were some moments where I was like, oh my God, did we really wake up for this? And then there were moments where Who Let the Dogs Out and things got so good. I mean, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom was here. And that was monumental. Yet this Direct, most of the time, felt anything but. That show sent me from like howling to screaming. That show sent me from insane hype to horrible senses of despair. That show was a roller coaster, which is like, welcome to being a Nintendo fan. I'm gonna be honest with you. I got nothing else except my opinion. Y'all can have yours. They can be different. That's all right. That's good. That's healthy. My opinion, you're gonna have to hear it out, all right? And I teetered on the edge of saying that was the worst Direct ever. But when I took a deep breath, which I always recommend doing, and looked back, I was like, there was some big stuff. The new Fire Emblem game, Engage, it's coming out January 20th. I think in the fury of farming and the chaos of all sorts of other Japanese games that seem to be kind of timed to Tokyo Game Show, we forget that they revealed the beginning of next year's lineup, and it's quite strong. Fire Emblem Engage brings new characters and old characters together for what hopefully is the pinnacle of that franchise. It looks like it really does focus on dragons and battles and bringing characters back as your emblems, which is a pretty cool idea. And I think that if you're a Fire Emblem fan, that's a massive announcement. And they started off the show strong. And they also brought in DLC for a number of different games. And they also had a big, not segment, but big reveal for Zelda and a new Pikmin, which was a surprise and people said it wasn't time for. And you really want to think about how this Direct, maybe more than any other, probably more than any I've seen, completely went against what every prediction said. Every prediction and leak was wrong. Think about that for a moment. That is wild. And if anything, it teaches us that Nintendo, they operate by the beat of their own drum and nobody else's drum. So this show had extreme lows and extreme highs. And when you look back upon it, it is a show that is imbalanced, that is flawed, that is heavily flawed, but that did have its highlights and that did the thing it needed to do at the very end to prevent calamity. We know what Ganon gets up to when all you show is farming games and Japanese RPGs and trailers for things like Just Dance. At that point, I nearly lost it. But they had one way to save, and save they did. I think Animal Crossing is cool and all, but the curse of what Nintendo has done to us, the curse that has befallen us as an audience because they refuse to continue Animal Crossing, is now every game is Animal Crossing. There were at least 6 or 7 titles in this Direct that are directly riffing off of Animal Crossing. They're farming, they're building a community, and I swear it's become its own genre, and I swear I'm already way sick of it. And if you want to make those games, fine, don't put them in the Direct. We do not need 7 of those games in a Direct, and it really felt like a slap in the face after not having a Direct for nearly 7 months. Let's talk Zelda for a bit. Zelda is the reason why people aren't freaking out about this Direct. They knew the ace up their sleeve, and even if it was like literally a sliver of the ace, they didn't give us the full ace card. They were like, we can do whatever we want, and we drop a name and a date, and we're good. It's literally the golden ticket. Like Willy Wonka was dancing all over that Nintendo Direct because Nintendo knew as soon as they dropped that, it's just like the relaxant that everybody, we're all just chill and happy. Tears of the Kingdom is a strange title. It reminds me almost of like a fanfic. I feel like it's such a strange title for Nintendo. Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Breath of the Wild. They have a lot of power and they seem to follow kind of a similar convention. I feel like Tears of the Kingdom is like the weirdest Zelda title ever, but maybe that's a great thing. The game looks to be incredible. It's diverse, and it's definitely vertical. And I made mention in my Zelda dedicated video, which you can check out, where I have analysis of the trailer. It looks like 7 tiers, and 7 tiers seems to relate to 7 dungeons, and then you have the ground literally splitting. The ground is literally crying upwards, and it's floating up into the sky, which sounds like a curse that someone placed upon the poor kingdom of Hyrule, and the kingdom is literally crying. That's the name of the game, Tears of the Kingdom. It's literally crying. Now, it's coming out in May, which is a far ways away. That is still 8 months from now. And I really think for a company that usually prides themselves on gameplay, they did us dirty this show. They gave us about 10 seconds of Zelda and 0 seconds of Pikmin 4. By all accounts, those are 2 massive announcements that we can agree are very exciting and really are. Like, those are tentpole announcements, but I think they felt diluted because they opted not to show much. They showed Pikmin Bloom. Don't ever do that. Like, there's a few cardinal sins of directs, and one of them is showing games that came out months ago. Like, if you have DLC, okay, we have to get through it. But to come out and bring Miyamoto, King of the Castle, my guy, love the dude to death, and make a brief mention of Mario and then 180 into Pikmin Bloom, like, dude, I love you, Shiggy, but we don't need to see what 70-year-old you is walking around Tokyo doing with their Pikmin. We need to see Pikmin 4. And you basically confirmed that it's from the perspective of the Pikmin, like every other Pikmin game. I think that really was the biggest oddity here, that they waited so long to have this direct, and they didn't really have much gameplay ready. The Pikmin 4 tease was a smaller tease than we got from Splatoon 3, a smaller tease than we got from Super Smash Bros. It was the most minute of teases. It basically was like, it's a Pikmin game. We have no clue anything about the quantity, the quality, the caliber, the style, the modes of that game, except that it's the 4th in the Pikmin series, and they've restarted development many, many times. And it's coming out supposedly in 2023, but we've heard that before from other games like Tears of the Kingdom. It's going to take me a while to get used to saying that instead of Breath of the Wild, because we think of this era of the franchise as Breath of the Wild, but really the era of this franchise is just Zelda. It's open world Zelda, or open zone if you want to be all blue and cool, but they did save themselves by doing that. I think if they ended with pretty much anything else, barring some huge gargantuan surprise, it was going to be toilet water. But Tears of the Kingdom on May 12th, it's an interesting date. I think there's a lot to think about in terms of why they picked that date instead of March. I think there's a lot to think about in terms of what systems that game is going to be on. But for now, we can at least relax and know we got a title, we got a date. When Nintendo sets the date, I believe in it. I don't think there's going to be a delay for that. The season was given in spring. Now we have a concrete Friday. I feel really good about it. It's still a big wait, but it looks like it's going to be brilliant. I think what's super stupid clear is that Nintendo's view of a Direct has changed. Nintendo's view of a Direct has evolved. Look, I mean, I'm SwitchForce. I have covered these things since the inception of the system, and they have moved in the last year or so. And it's because Nintendo now views this as a multimedia, completely across the board opportunity to launch and reveal products. They use Twitter, they use directs, they use random trailers, they use all sorts of opportunities to drop details. And they no longer view the direct as the only place. And I feel like that is maybe the main reason directs have taken a hit as of late, is they are comfortable spacing out the information. We saw them do that this summer by absolutely elongating the process of a typical June 14th Nintendo Direct and stretching it over the course of nearly 3 months. Now, there were still a bunch of announcements, but they proved that they don't buy into the idea that everything should be at the Direct. And it seems like they jam-packed this show with so many unnecessary pieces to make it feel like a 40-minute show, when in reality this probably could have been a truncated 20-minute presentation. They genuinely didn't have enough for a 40-minute direct of the old style, but I think this is the new style. And if you look across the board to how companies present their information, we see more and more disappointing shows that do not deliver heavy hitter after heavy hitter, because those things are spread the heck out. I wouldn't be surprised to see some of the announcements we expected today pop up on Twitter between now and the launch of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. What a weird world where they wouldn't just include that in the presentation itself, the thing we're all waiting for. But they've changed, man. And Nintendo Directs, they're no longer the direct source for Nintendo's best. They're just one piece of Nintendo's marketing puzzle. And I feel like that's a loss for everyone involved, but it's very clearly what's going on here. And I think we need to reassess maybe how we feel as we approach the next Nintendo show. Let's have a moment for Kirby. All right, Kirby is so Nintendo. Today's Kirby and the whole year's Kirby is so perfectly one-to-one with what Nintendo is. They are unexpected. They are goofy. They do what you think they would never do, and they go in circles. Kirby Return to Dreamland is a Wii game. And everybody said we were going to get a bunch of GameCube remasters and they'd focus more on the core with things like F-Zero GX and Metroid Prime. And instead, Kirby's Anniversary is the most celebrated of any Nintendo anniversary, despite Kirby not being the bestseller nor the fan favorite, and despite Kirby going forward as all heck with Forgotten Land. They now go backwards as all heck with a Wii port with heavy cel-shaded graphics that frankly I don't think looks good. It has mini games, and that samurai game is legit. The fast finger has always been fun, Kirby vs. DDD. But why are we bringing a Wii Kirby back when we have Star Allies, which is an evolved version of Return to Dreamland, and we have Forgotten Land, which is literally the evolution of the franchise? This is such a strange decision and strange inclusion, and I feel like it was the penultimate reveal because it was the ultimate example of what Nintendo has been at their directs recently. Unpredictably awkward. I am glad it's coming early in the year. I'm sure some people are fans. The Kirby love is felt all over the body, but I don't get it. Now, possibly the weirdest part of the presentation to me was that they didn't really choose to advance Nintendo Switch Online much at all. They did reveal a big slew of N64 games, and there's some heavy hitters there. Mario Party, Pokemon Stadium, and oh yeah, GoldenEye. GoldenEye makes a return with online multiplayer, and for a subset of the audience, that's a huge announcement. It's another one of those highlights. But it's weird to me that we go another year, another renewal of Switch Online, and they didn't add any DLC to the expansion pack. They didn't add anything in the way of Game Boy or Game Boy Advance. And there was nothing about GameCube, and everyone was like, this show is going to be cube-tastic. Are you kidding me? There was nothing. Zilch. What happened to F-Zero? What happened to Metroid Prime? What happened to Twilight Princess? Nothing. But Nintendo Switch Online instead carries forth with N64 games into 2023. Now, there is a chance that they announce something later for Switch Online, and I think that this service is inevitably going to build and blossom beyond what we saw today, but this was their chance. They had a Switch Online segment, and they were like 1080, snowboarding, you know, and GoldenEye is obviously the big one. It's out on Xbox as well. That's a nice get. The strange part is Nintendo could spread it out. We could see a Switch Online big reveal in a week's time. They've done it before, and they will do it again inevitably. I'm not going to predict that you'll see Game Boy or Game Boy Advance later this year, but there is no reason why they could not make a Switch Online substantial update, or at least add some DLC to the expansion pack as we move forward. I felt like it was way too early for Mario Kart Wave 3, and yet they're like 2 choruses for Mario Kart. They do know what their heavy hitters are, and Mario Kart and Zelda, Splatoon 3, doesn't get all that much heavier than that. They talked about the Splatfest, and they showed Pauline for Strikers, which I do think is a sweet get, although that game needs way more than characters to put itself in a particularly interesting position. It had a delay. SwitchForce, Golf, 21 holes, which is such an odd number. 9, 18, 27, no. 18 and 3, okay. Weird. It's delayed to holiday. So that's your show that the pandemic is still causing problems. And I'm of two minds. I think that this weirdly paced, oddly structured, some awful inclusions, like that freaking fitness fist of the... What was that? Why is that in there? Like, I understand Just Dance because that's a casual audience appeal game that actually ends up selling a lot of copies, but there were some other titles here that... I mean, there was a game about, like, varied lifestyle or various day... Who greenlit that? Where does that come from? Why is that in a Nintendo Direct? There are some amazing games that barely get the time of day, and we're gonna give various or varied or live your day out today. No Hollow Knight, no big drop, some demos. I either wonder if the pandemic is still causing a supreme problem and we're seeing major games like, say, Metroid Prime or, say, Donkey Kong suffering problems where they're not ready to show, and they might as well hold off if they know it's not releasing for a while. My other theory that I'll dive into in more detail involves new hardware, but I'm not going to talk about that here. It was just strange to see so much shine given to games that typically, in what we used to think of a Nintendo Direct, would not have been there. And that is the theme I want you to really grab onto and tell me if you agree. And so I feel like it's been a long time coming, and I've resisted and I've persisted and I've tried to deny, but I am going to change the way that I perceive a Nintendo Direct. I think what Nintendo believes it to be has become more clear, and that is an option, not the end-all be-all. And I love when they're the end-all be-all because I feel like it's Christmas. And instead, this is more just like a family get-together. Still really fun, something you don't want to miss. There's highlights, but there's also moments when your uncle tells that story that you have no clue why he's sharing, and nobody at the table is laughing, and everyone wishes they had chosen to do something else. 2023 shall start off strong with a new Fire Emblem, a mainline entry, Octopath Traveler 2, and that weird freaking Kirby game. For all the hype about the ports we were supposed to get, the one we get is a Wii Kirby. Nintendo values that franchise almost higher than Mario. It's kind of sad. But the year does start out strong, and we know we have Zelda waiting in May. Tears of the Kingdom. Tears were shed today, but it wasn't all bad. The directs have changed. The times are different. I still loved having the moment with you. I still am proud to be a Nintendo fan, and I will continue to wait and see what they deliver on Twitter and YouTube and TikTok. I don't know, maybe they'll send us an email. Until next time, though, everybody, let me know what you think. Hope you enjoyed my recap. That was a show. And until next time, everybody, Nintendo Directs. Nintendo Directs. Thanks again. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay positive out there. SwitchForce. Out.